Now, have you ever wished you had a voice that made you sound like a natural leader? Well, we can't help you with that, unfortunately. What we can do, though, is tell you that scientists say they do now know what it is that makes a voice charismatic. Researchers in California say that some people simply have an innate ability to manipulate their vocal frequency to give their voice a richer quality. Well, we're going to discuss this now because I'm joined in the studio by BBC Science reporter Melissa Hogenboom and voice coach Yvonne Morley. Also on the line is Jan Schnopp, who's co-director of Oxford University's Auditory Neuroscience Group, no less. Jan, thanks very much for being with us. Melissa, let me start with you. Just explain this for us if you can.
Scientists wanted to understand what aspect of charisma is innate and which is learned, and they found that there is an innate aspect to it, and it all depends on the size of your larynx. So if you have a larger larynx, you have a deeper voice, and a deeper voice means that you sound more dominant. And it's the people that were the leaders have long evolved this ability, the researchers say, to manipulate this aspect of vocal frequency. And vocal frequency is a richer sounding voice. If you imagine a cello and a violin, the same note sounds a lot richer on a cello. And people with higher voices were seen as much more benevolent and not as dominant.
Depends how well you can use a violin and a cello as well, doesn't it? Perhaps true for the voice as well. Jan, I just wonder what you make of this research. Do you buy into it? The idea of leaders manipulating, that's what they do in all other circumstances, the voice as well?
Well, I'm not sure I would necessarily call it manipulating. I mean, they're using their voice ultimately to signal something which may be sincere or it may not be sincere. If you think about your voice, ultimately, if what happens when you try to use your voice is that you push air through the vocal folds which sit in your larynx, roughly here. You push air through them and you make them go flap, 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 flap really quickly, and that's what generates your voice. Now, if you're large, then your vocal folds are large and they'll vibrate slowly, and you can use that to signal just your size, because you've got a low voice, it's associated with a big, like a St. Bernard dog, for example, whereas a, small vocal folds, like a little Pekingese dog, yap, 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 would have very small vocal folds. And, so you can signal your size, but you can also signal tension, because if you become more tense, more, emotionally aroused, the tension on your vocal folds increases and they start to vibrate faster.
Right.
Like
I'm intrigued though by this word innate. I mean, is this not something we could learn to do?
It is something that is, in principle, absolutely trainable. It is just difficult to keep it up. I mean, if you, you can try and just lower your voice a little bit and come across as, more relaxed and more powerful. But, as soon as you try to maintain this, day in, day out, while you're also trying to communicate some complicated thoughts, your voice may just easily return back to autopilot,
right,
to its normal, natural set point.
I can see we're all going to be going around for the rest of the day trying out silly voices at this rate.
Deep I recommend deep and breathy.
Right. Yvonne Morley, just give us an idea, if you can, then, as to how much you can do to work the voice.
Yes.
And, I mean, Jan's view is you can't keep that up, but actually some people do. They change their voice, don't they?
They absolutely do. I mean, actors are the classic example, and an actor will train usually for about 3 years and have daily work on their voice. It is entirely possible to enrich the tonal qualities, to increase the pitch range, to also understand facial expression and body language, and also what I call the inner voice. So the power of your own conviction, your thoughts, your attitude goes a long way. A bit like you were implying, it isn't just the cello, it's who's playing it and how you play it.
Well, it's interesting because we're talking about the voice having the charisma. How much would you buy into that? I mean, you're a voice coach, so I guess you would say yes, but as you say, there's so much more to charisma, isn't there?
Absolutely. The old adage, it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. So you could have somebody very passionate about whatever they're talking about, and you can sell unwanted goods to anybody. Can be caught out with the right kind of charisma behind that.
The insurance salesman with a great voice is a dangerous animal. Indeed. Well, listen, let's have some examples, because we can't go wrong if we just take. Let's have this one first of all.
There are some who say, in Europe and elsewhere, we can work with the communists. Let them come to Berlin.
Well, JFK, of course. charisma oozing out of every pore, we're told.
Indeed.
That wasn't the deepest, basest voice we've ever heard.
Exactly. So it isn't everything. It isn't everything, just the lower pitch. But what he is doing, he's physically very stable. In the theatre, we call it being centred. The actor has to be centred so they can breathe and support their voice. He's also not rushing through what he's saying. And in fact, he's using his ends of phrase and sort of holding the moment at the end of phrase so it, if you like, sings. It resonates in the ear of the listener.
Deeply practiced.
Indeed.
Right, OK,
yes,
let's have another example. This is Angela Merkel, not everyone's idea of a great orator, but let's have a listen to this.
Dass heute Menschen in Deutschland angepöbelt, bedroht und angegriffen werden, wenn sie sich irgendwie als Juden zu erkennen geben oder auch, wenn sie für den Staat Israel Partei ergreifen. Das ist
Let's be crude here, Yvonne. What would you do if you had a session with Angela Merkel?
Well, first of all, again, you know, we're saying maybe not naturally the most charismatic voice, but again, her pacing is good. She has the courage of her convictions. She is physically quite secure in what she's doing. What would I do with her? I would work on a greater range of pitch. I would work to maybe increase what we call chest resonance to give it those sort of foundations and carrying power. I would also encourage her, I say all of this respectfully, of course, I would encourage her maybe to just sustain the eye contact a little bit longer. But, you know, I'm saying this respectfully. She's doing a great job.
And she plays it as the ordinary person as well, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does.
Maybe not the big charisma.
Yeah.
We're going to have to leave it there. Yvonne, thank you very much indeed. Melissa, Jan Schnupp as well, thank you all very much indeed for joining us for a fascinating discussion then.